Hello and welcome to Letters Home, a story of a World War II B-17 pilot from Lowell, Michigan in his own words. And he just so happens to be my grandpa. I'm your host, Annie Whitlock, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, my dad, Mitch McMahon, my Aunt Lori Summerfield, and Dale Croft from the Lowell Historical Museum.
In each episode of Letters Home, we're going to dive into letters written by my dad during his time in World War II that he sent to his parents, siblings, and friends back home in Lowell, Michigan. We'll be reading his own words and giving some context as to what was happening in the world and in Lowell at the time he wrote these.
In this episode, Dad gets ready to come back to Lowell on leave, and we learn why he's interested in a Bangor, Maine address. We also learn more about Marg A, the Marg A subject from Glendon Swarthout.
And we're gonna actually start with Lowell author Glendon Swarthout, but first, Dale has a correction for us in a previous episode.
Last episode, I talked about books from Glendon Swarthout, and I said horseman. It wasn't horseman, it's homesman. The book was homesman, not horseman.
Okay. Right. Well, speaking of Mr. Swarthout, last episode we spent quite a bit of time talking about maybe Lowell's most famous author and learned that Bruce wanted to read a copy of Glendon Swarthout's first novel, Willow Run. And Bruce indicated that maybe Swarthout wrote about Marg A in the book, who, of course, is Bruce's future wife. So Dale taught us that Swarthout was inspired by Lowell in many of his novels, and we managed to procure a copy of Willow Run from the Lowell Historical Museum.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them who let you read it, Dad. Yeah. So this is going to be our segment where Dad gives a book review. Mitch gives a book review. Tell us about Willow Run.
Willow Run is Glendon Swarthout's first novel, and in my opinion, the least polished of the 4 or 5 Swarthout novels I've read. There isn't much of a plot. It's basically a character study of about a dozen workers who have come from all over the Midwest to take good paying jobs at Willow Run, the B-24 bombing factory, and to support the war effort. The main characters, 2 men, a young man, and 2 boys, share a ride and an infatuation with Charmaine, the lone girl in the ride share. Charmaine has learned early in life that her chief stock in trade is sex.
Okay.
Her sex with men stems not from any brilliance of mind, but from a sort of innocent sensuality.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I was a little worried. I went, uh-oh. Hope that's not Mom.
Oh my God.
Another character, Joe the Sweeper, says of Charmaine, she's a nice enough kid. I don't think she knows what she's doing, but she's really getting them fellas hot and bothered. It ain't her fault, and it ain't theirs. It's just the war and the bomber plant and everything. Yeah, so anyway, I think that I did then come across a minor character, Marg Ames, which would fit
there we go, Marg A.
Who's a minor character who acts as a foil for Charmaine and other women working at the plant. In Glendon's own words, Marg Ames was a school teacher in a small Illinois town for 3 years. In one way or another, she exhausted the town's limited supply of eligible men and left Illinois for greener pastures.
Oh, no.
She has been bitterly disappointed. I shouldn't complain, Mark says. I have dates enough as far as that goes. But Lord, all they can talk about is why they've been rejected, why they hope they'll be rejected, or why in hell they weren't rejected and they're leaving next Tuesday. Swarthout describes Marg as a well-built, well-muscled woman. She's always clean and curried. Her bearing is military, her hips flat, with an athletic grace to them. I think a lot of that fits.
Okay. Certainly the school teacher moving to Willow Run fits, yeah.
And although she's described in her late 30s in the book, Mom would have been 25 at the time. Marg A seems ready to find someone and settle down. Give me just a handsome, healthy 4F with 4 good tires, the love of slippers and pipe, and a priority on a fireplace, says Marg.
Okay.
That cracked
That's
me
funny.
up a little bit. Yeah, it is funny. What with 4? I think she's speaking literally with 4 good tires, right?
Probably. I mean, tires are rationed at this point. I mean, she needs a man with a car.
Okay. Whereas Charmaine is sometimes frightened with the fear of her physical power.
Okay.
Marg A is in need of a husband more than a man. Quote.
Oh.
I like that she's a feisty character. When another woman criticizes her and her friends for taking a smoke break, Marg A steps close to her. Listen, you poor prayer for a woman. You go run into the office, and teacher will spank whatever you have in your pants until she blisters, and then stand you in a corner. And the two women glare at each other. Finally, Agnes, not Marg Ames, backs down. They all smile. They've heard it before. Marg is still Marg. Yeah, I do think she used the term, I'm going to blister you until you, and then stand you in the corner. I think
that sounds familiar. That tracks.
Oh, that's so funny.
Sounds like something she might say.
No, that's so funny.
And so maybe I'm reading more into it than I should, but I think we might be onto something.
Oh my goodness! I bet Bruce would be happy to hear that this character, because he's reading the book to learn more.
Yeah.
About
sure.
Marg A, never figured her out proper. Like
I was definitely more afraid of Mother than I was of Dad growing up.
I'll beat whatever you have in your pants until it blisters and stand you in a corner.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that does sound like her for sure. I said this in the last episode too. I wonder how Bruce knew that Margaret was in the book. I mean, she probably told him. Maybe Glendon Swarthout and her had a conversation. It was like, I'm putting you in this book. You know, they clearly had a mutual friend in Glendon Swarthout.
Yep, somebody mentioned it to him, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's a fun trip down memory lane there.
So Dad was in Welcome to Thebes. He was Speedy.
Uh-huh.
We'll have to...
That'll be the next book review?
I haven't read that in a long time. I'll have to go back and look at that character, Speedy. But it's just fun to think that maybe both Mom and Dad showed up in Glendon Swarthout novels.
Makes sense if they were friends. Well, if any listeners have a correction or an addition for us, please comment, message us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any of the socials, and we'll rectify it in a future episode, or we'll add on some information when we can. That's half the fun. So we're getting close to Bruce being ready to go back home, because for all of 1943 so far, Bruce has been dying to get on leave, even for a couple of days. He's talked about it numerous times, unsuccessfully. And so now we're in June of 1943, and it looks like he's going to get his chance to go on leave. So we're going to start with a letter from June 11th, 1943, in his own words.
Friday night. Dear Mother and Dad, well, another day has ended, and I'm another day closer to my seeing you. Bet you now I'll be showing off my wings to you about the 15th or so of next month. I plan to take the airlines and should be home in about 6 hours from the time I leave Amarillo. Now, here's something important I want you to do. As far as I know now, I can get 7 days plus 24 hours for each 800 miles you're going to travel. Well, I've been racking my brain for someone I know in Maine, and I finally thought of my niece, M. McMahon, Uncle Charlie's daughter. If you can get her address for me, here's the way it'll work. I give my address as Bangor, Maine, while on leave, but I want the exact address. And then I'll write to her and tell her that in case any wire came for me to rewire it home, pronto. In this way, I'll be able to get several extra days for leave, and it's on the up and up. Many officers do this. So see if you can get Margaret's address from Charlie as soon as you can, and let me know. Then I'll write to her and explain the situation. Gotta get some sleep now. Good night, and God bless you, your loving son, J. Bruce. P.S. If you don't understand about this getting M. McMahon's address, let me know.
So, Bruce is trying to get a longer leave by saying his home is further away than it is. That's what I was sort of piecing together here. A little bit. So, since he needs someone to take his calls, if they come for him, he's calling his cousin, I think, right? Not his. He's calling her his niece, but if she's Uncle Charlie's daughter, she would be his cousin, right? But anyway, Margaret McMahon is her name, of course, another one. So if we weren't confused enough as it is, I believe this is the third or fourth Margaret McMahon we have mentioned on this podcast.
Not to even mention Margaret Ames.
Yeah, then the fake ones in the Willow Run book. I did find a little bit about her searching the ledger randomly one time because I was searching for Margaret Allen, my grandmother. So I was searching Margaret, and Margaret McMahon pops up. And she was Charlie's daughter. Apparently, she graduated from U of M with her medical degree in January of 1943 and moved to Bangor, Maine that month to begin her internship. So she's a doctor in her medical degree. Dr. McMahon. That was amazing. Do you all know this person or?
No.
No, his first picture I saw of her was, through this.
I don't know. Did we see a picture? So there was Margaret. That's Frank's mom. There's one. And then I think there's Margaret. That's Frank's sister, I think. And then there's Frank's niece, another one. It's just too many. I can't keep them all straight. But anyway, this is Charlie's daughter.
I think I've already said it before, too, because there is a Margaret McMahon grave close by. Because Mom said that made her feel very uneasy.
Yeah, I think that's Frank's wife. I think Bruce's mom. No. I'm not Frank's wife. Frank's mom. Oh, my gosh.
Frank's mom.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little discombobulated. Too many Margarets.
Arthur and, oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, this is a cousin. Bruce's cousin. So he's writing a little more infrequently this month, too. So there's not as many letters in June, and they're much more spaced apart. He's busy flying, no doubt, and probably getting ready to head home for leave. I even noticed his handwriting's getting a little sloppier.
Oh, no.
I know. And his handwriting's usually so pristine, but in some of these letters, it's a little sloppier. But I can imagine him just trying to, quickly jet off letters, every couple weeks. So this next one we're going to read is actually from June 20th now, 1943, in his own words.
Sunday. Dear Mother and Dad, thanks for sending me Margaret's address. I squeezed out time to drop her a letter this afternoon so that she'll understand. No, Mother, it's okay to say I'm going to Maine on my leave. There's no compulsion as to where I go as long as I give an address they can get in touch with me at. The card I'm sending you is to partially explain why my letters are so few of late. This card was tacked up outside my room and is for the purpose of letting us sleep the few hours we get a chance to. If I wasn't sure of seeing you soon, I'd write when I was on missions, etc. But I hope soon to be giving you all this firsthand, and so maybe you'll forgive me. Today is nice and warm out. Last night it rained and hailed a lot. I flew them through 30 miles of hail, but didn't suffer any damages. I tried to call you today, Dad, but it was impossible. Guess you'll have to take a rain check on this Father's Day. I've thought of you all day, and if thoughts were money, you'd be rich.
Aw.
Tomorrow I'm going cross-country, might even get over Michigan, although our missions usually are of such a nature that we can't waste even 10 minutes' time. Since coming down here, I've had to buy a lot of summer uniforms, etc. Therefore, I haven't had any extra money to send home. Probably won't leave any extra until after my leave. I intend to fly home, as it's just about as cheap as a train. I can get priorities that will get me in okay from Amarillo. It's about 6.5 hours to GR. As soon as I have any idea as to when I'll get my leave, I'll let you know. God bless you. Your loving son, J. Bruce.
So this card he's referring to, we have actually. I don't know if it's a literal card that Bruce had or if it's something that, Dale, that you found on the internet. But regardless, it's in the primary sources that Dale put together, and that's on the Lowell Historical Museum website. You can see it there. It's definitely like a sign that would presumably be hung up on the wall, and it reads, "Due to the intensive 24-hour training program being conducted on this base, no unnecessary noise, loud talking, or commotion will be tolerated in and around this building at any time of the day or night by order of the base commander." So it's basically a do not disturb sign. Because they have to fly all night and they got to sleep during the day, and it's like, don't want to bother them. So I think that's what he's
driving
referring to.
through hail for 30 miles.
Yeah. So
Flying through hail.
He's like, it's quiet zone over here. So I don't know if he actually sent that home or if you happen to find it, Dale. I don't know, but
I don't know. I
it's
can't
there.
remember.
It's there. All right. Well, it is time for our segment where we talk about what was going on in the world and in Lowell when Bruce wrote these letters. So it is June 1943, and in Lowell, the Ledger reported on an honor roll of servicemen being placed in front of City Hall with names of all veterans and service people from Lowell. I was just found that interesting. I don't know if it's still there or not. You'd figure it was, or if it got moved. Does anybody know? I should have put you on this one, Dale, but
I'll check into that over the week.
I drove by City Hall and I didn't see anything, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I didn't get out and walk around, but I don't know. But they had put up like a plaque that had all the different servicemen from Lowell. So
To check on that.
I thought it was nice, like during wartime, they're trying to commemorate They're service people.
Sure.
The Ledger also reported on Margaret Niles, our other favorite Margaret. I think she's like a random person we found one time, and now we're like trying to find out her whole life in addition to this. But the Ledger had reported that since she was a WAC, she's being transferred to Selfridge Field in Mount Clemens. So I thought we would
Throw that in there.
You know, why not? We'll throw that in there. Yeah, it's kind of a light news month, June 1943. But not necessarily local in Lowell, but local in Michigan. There was a big national story happening in June 1943 was the race riot that happened in Detroit at Belle Isle Park during this month. So I did put Dale on this one. What can you tell us about this tragic event?
Well, the Detroit race riot of 1943 was primarily caused by a combination of deep-seated racial tensions, including widespread discrimination in employment, housing, and access to goods, made worse by wartime pressures like labor shortages and racial segregation, which ultimately led to a tipping point when false rumors spread throughout the black and white communities, sparking violence. Now, I want to share the backstory of this event, which led up to June 20th. Before and during World War II, black residents were part of the workforce that migrated north to seek factory employment in such vast numbers, 200,000, that Detroit was incapable of adequately receiving them. Factories offered employment, but not housing. And because whites violently defended the borders of their segregated neighborhoods, black residents had little choice but to suffer in horrible living conditions, such as an area in the city's east side known as Paradise Alley and Black Bottom. Due to the continued growth of the African American residents, the city in 1942 attempted to build a black housing project in what was a white neighborhood by the black neighborhood of Continent Gardens. A mob of several thousand whites lit a cross on fire and angrily picketed the arrival of their African American neighbors. Black workers faced racism on the job as well. In June of 1943, white workers halted production to protest the promotion of their African American co-workers. Other factories faced habitual slowdowns by bigoted whites who refused to work alongside African Americans. So on June 20th, 1943, as nearly 100,000 citizens packed Belle Island, black and white youths engaged in racial-motivated fighting on the island. By midnight, the police had stopped the violence, but tensions soared later that night due to two rumors on each side. African Americans in Paradise Valley were told that whites had thrown a black woman and her baby off the Belle Island Bridge.
Oh.
As these rumors spread, rioting began with breaking windows, looting white businesses, and attacking white individuals. In a nearby area, angry whites had gathered after hearing that black men had raped a white woman near the same bridge. Around 4 a.m., a mob of white men formed near the Roxy Theater. When the movie let out, black men leaving the theater were surrounded and beaten. Black motorists were also pelted with stones by white rioters. As word of both incidents spread, so did the violence. White mobs overturned cars owned by blacks and set them on fire and beat black men as white policemen looked on. The fighting ended some 2 days later after Governor Harry Kelly and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt sent in over 3,500 federal troops in jeeps and armored personnel carriers with automatic weapons to help restore order. 9 whites and 25 African Americans were killed in the riots in 1943. No white individuals were killed by police, whereas 17 African Americans died at the hands of police violence. 675 people were reportedly injured, with damages amounting to $2 million.
Wow.
So
I've always learned about the 1968 Detroit riot, rebellion, whatever you want to call it, but I never really heard of this one.
Yeah. Well, I heard about the Belle Island thing because I've seen a couple. That was pretty. Yeah, that was very violent. So that whole thing's basically set off.
Wow.
And then the two rumors once again.
Okay. But I couldn't find much about it in the Lowell Ledger. So Lowell didn't really report on this, but it was
talked about that earlier.
In a lot of places in national news.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Well, I didn't find one thing.
Well, all right. We are going to finish today with a letter from Bruce where he's making his official plans to come home to Lowell for the first time since May of 1942, basically since our episode 1. And this is episode 23. He hasn't been home since. So we'll read this letter in his own words.
Monday. Dear Mother and Dad, I'm sorry that my letters are so few of late, but I've been away from the base a lot lately and just haven't had a chance to write. Everything is going swell, and I'm really seeing the country at the government's expense. I was in El Paso for a couple of days, just arrived back this morning. Before that, I'd been in Kansas, and before that, I'd spent a couple of days in Tucson, Arizona. On these trips, I have very little time to myself. The crew can take it easy, but the first pilot is always stuck for a lot of paperwork. You've really no idea what amount of work it is to keep a crew together and straightened out. I have to keep records, all of their records, etc. Our leaves have been shortened now, so it's 6 days plus 1 day travel time. I'm not sure when or where I'll be getting this leave from, but my plane connections will be to Chicago. I wonder if someone could meet me there with a car. The airlines have canceled their trip from Chicago to Grand Rapids, so I'll have to take a ship to Milwaukee and then across. I'll probably get home sooner if someone could meet me in Chicago and drive home. Due to gasoline rationing, this is probably impossible, or else it would short the family on ration tickets. Anyway, let me know, as I'll only have a few days at home. Leave will probably start around July 10th or so I'll let you know definitely as soon as our orders are cut. I was recommended for my first bars today. I probably won't get my promotion before I come home, although I might. I'll try to write more often, and I'm counting the days until I see you again. God bless and keep you safe. Your loving son, J. Bruce.
Dale, do you know what the bars are that he's referring to? We're not talking Lena Lou this time. What are the bars that he's referring to?
Well, when Bruce referred to getting my first bars, it was his military rank, which determines a service member's level of responsibility and pay. Responsibility for personnel, equipment, and mission increases with each rank advancement. To become a pilot in the Air Force, you must have a rank of at least second lieutenant, which he got when he became.
When he got his wings, right?
You can earn this rank by attending the Reserve Officer Training Corps program at your college, going to officer training school after college, or graduating from the cadet training, which
that's what he did.
Bruce did.
Yeah.
In the U.S. military, the main difference between E and O rankings is the E ranks are for enlisted servicemen, and O ranks are for commissioned officers. So, E ranks, he had to go through those first. Enlisted ranks are for service members in pay grades, E1 through E9. The E stands for enlisted. The Air Force has 3 tiers of enlisted airmen. Airmen E1 through E4, non-commissioned officers E5 through E6, and senior commissioned officers E7 through E9. O ranks, which is commissioned officers' ranks, are for service members in pay grades O1 through O10. The O stands for officer. So E is enlisted, O is officer. Mm-hmm. So he got paid in both E and O ranks. Here are some of the ranks in the United States Air Force from lowest to highest. So he starts out as an Air Basic, which is the lowest rank with a pay grade of E1. Airman is E2, and Airman First Class is E3, and Senior Airman is E4. So he went through E1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the O, Second Lieutenant and Officer rank of O1, which he got. First Lieutenant and Officer rank of O2, which he got. Mm-hmm. Captain and Officer rank of O3, and then he became a Major and Officer rank of O4. There can be a Lieutenant Colonel, O5, Colonel, O6, Brigadier General, O7, a Major General, O8, Lieutenant General, O9, a General, a rank above Lieutenant General, O10, and of course, General of the Air Force has no rank. So Bruce's first bar, which he talks about, would have been an O1 Second Lieutenant, a single gold bar.
Okay.
Which made him a commissioned officer. In this journey from here to 1945, he earned an O2, mm-hmm. which was First Lieutenant, which was a single silver bar. Then an O3, which was Captain, which is 2 silver bars connected. And then he became an O4 Major, which is a gold oak leaf. So that's, okay. When he talks about bars, it was for his First Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant, and Captain.
All right.
Moving up the ranks.
I have pictures of the different commission, what they earn and what they look like will be on
Okay.
our primary resource in our YouTube.
So he got his second lieutenant when he got his wings. No, first. Wait, what's first? Is it first is
Yeah,
first or
that-
is second
I'm not-
first?
yeah, I
Do you
don't
count down or count up?
I would think when he got, I'll have to look
I
into
just
that
listened
one.
to you say it. Now I don't know.
I'd have to look in when he got his wings. When he
Oh,
earned
okay.
his
So
wings.
when he earned his wings, yeah. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what bars is he getting now. He's hoping for this promotion. He's
well,
going
he
to have
says
it.
it's the beginning of his bars, so it's got to be an 01. So it'd
Okay.
have to be one silver
Maybe.
bar.
All right, that makes sense. Okay. Well, this will be
I'll
fun.
check into when they get their wings.
He will get more promotions as this
Yeah.
podcast goes on. So
Right.
somebody's
And
one
more,
of many.
and more money.
And more money.
Right.
There you go. Well, that letter we just read was from June 28th, 1943. And on July 8th, the Ledger reports that Bruce was set to arrive home that day. So, woohoo!
Yay.
The next letter we have in our collection is from July 18th, 1943. So we can assume Bruce maybe had, or at least he had a 10-day leave, 6 days, 7 days, but he didn't write letters for that amount of time. So he's at home. So
Do we ever find out if Bangor, Maine helped him out?
not yet. I don't know.
Sounds like they shortened.
Maybe.
they
So maybe
shortened
it
leave
was all
right
for
after-
nothing.
Yeah, they shortened leave right after that.
So he's on leave, and
All
not to
right.
spoil it, but it was a very eventful trip home. And his story is about to get even more exciting when he comes back from leave. So since Bruce is on leave, so are we. So we are going to record this. We are recording this right now around the holidays in 2024. So we're going to be taking a couple weeks off to spend with family and enjoy a break, since that's exactly what Bruce did as well. So you should expect to see the Letters Home podcast back on January 16th with Bruce back in Dalhart, Texas for now and getting ready for the next adventures. So thank you all for listening to Letters Home. We hope you continue to listen as we go through Bruce's story. You can listen to Letters Home on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Lowell Historical Museum website and YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Thursday once we come back. The Lowell Historical Museum has digitized versions of Bruce's letters so you can read them in full, along with primary sources for most of the people, places, and events we've talked about here today, plus more. You can also follow the Lowell Historical Museum on Facebook and the Letters Home podcast on Instagram at Letters Home Lowell. We will be posting on our break here. Thanks to Roger McNaughton for our podcast music, and to WRWW 92.3 FM for letting us record in their studio at Lowell High School every week. Tune in or stream WRWW at lowellradio.org. See you next time.